Captain Elias Ward stood on the bridge of the human fleet flagship, his hands resting lightly on the cold steel railing. He stared out at the stars, each one a tiny point of light in the vast darkness. Humanity had fought many wars, faced countless threats, and yet nothing prepared him for the decision that now weighed heavily on him. Earth had been at the negotiating table with the Valari, an alien race known for their warrior culture. Fierce, proud, and almost impossible to sway, the Valari were both feared and respected across the galaxy. Their warriors could match entire fleets in hand-to-hand combat, and their strategy in war was unmatched. Earth, despite its technological advances, knew it could not face the Valari alone if war broke out with other alien powers. So, humanity had agreed to a political marriage, a bond that would unite the two species and seal an alliance strong enough to hold back enemies. And Elias Ward, decorated human soldier, veteran of more battles than he cared to count, was the one chosen to marry the Valari prince. He had not met the prince yet. He had only seen a hollow portrait and heard whispers of Kale's reputation. Fierce, disciplined, feared, and utterly untouchable. The very idea that Elias, a human, would be joined with a Valari prince filled him with a mixture of anxiety and disbelief. "This is insane," Elias muttered to himself, his voice barely above a whisper. His second-in-command, Lieutenant Mara Chen, glanced at him from her station. "Sir?" she asked carefully. Elias shook his head. "Nothing, just thinking." He turned his gaze back to the stars. "I trained for war, not weddings." Mara gave a small smile, though it did not reach her eyes. She understood. Elias Ward did not do ceremony. He did action. He did battle. But marriage, politics? These were foreign fields, and the battlefield of etiquette was far more unpredictable than anything in space. The fleet had now entered Valari territory, and Elias could see the giant spires of the Valari capital planet in the distance. The city shimmered like a jewel under the light of its 3 suns, towers stretching high into the sky, banners fluttering even in the still vacuum of space. The Valari were preparing for his arrival with all the pomp and ceremony a warrior race could muster. When the landing was complete, Elias was escorted into the central hall of the palace. The room was enormous, with ceilings that seemed to touch the stars themselves. Walls were adorned with banners depicting Valari warriors in battle, their faces stern, their stances proud. Statues of legendary Valari heroes lined the corridors, their stone eyes seeming to watch every step, and there, waiting at the center, was Kale. The Valari prince stood tall, taller than any human, with skin like burnished bronze and eyes that glowed faintly under the ambient light. His hair was dark, pulled back tightly, revealing a strong, angular face that held both authority and curiosity. He wore ceremonial armor that gleamed even in the dim light, and his hands were clasped in front of him, steady and calm. Elias felt a strange mix of awe and apprehension. He had expected a cold, distant figure, someone who would regard him as nothing more than a piece in a game of politics. Instead, Kale's gaze was different. Sharp, yes, but there was also a curiosity there, a hint of interest in the human before him. "Captain Elias Ward." Kale's voice was low, yet it carried effortlessly across the hall. "You have come to your new home." Elias straightened, bowing slightly. "Prince Kale, I am honored to meet you." Kale inclined his head. "Honor is not given, human. It is earned, and we shall see in time what that means for you." The ceremony itself was formal but brief. Words were exchanged, oaths taken, and the joining ritual performed with a solemnity that sent shivers down Elias's spine. He had never felt so aware of the weight of responsibility. This was not just about him. This was about the fate of 2 civilizations. Afterwards, the newly joined pair were escorted to the private chambers prepared for them. The room was simple by Valari standards, but elegant, with a view of the city below and the stars beyond. Elias took a deep breath, feeling the weight of the day settle on his shoulders. Kale was already standing by the window looking out. "You are quiet," he said without turning. Elias shrugged. "I'm thinking. About Earth, about the Alliance, about what comes next." Kyle's eyes, glowing faintly, shifted to him. "It is natural. You are human, and humans think far more than you act. I am less burdened by thought. Action is our way." Elias gave a small, wry smile. "Then maybe we balance each other. You act, I think." For the first time, Kale's lips curved slightly. "Perhaps. We shall see." They spent the evening in cautious conversation. neither one pushing too far, neither one retreating completely. Elias spoke of human history, of wars fought, of the resilience that had allowed Earth to survive countless threats. Kale spoke of Valari culture, of honor, of strength, and of the expectations that weighed heavily on his shoulders as a prince. Despite the differences, a strange respect began to form between them. Elias saw that Kale was not a cold ruler, but a man molded by duty and training, striving to understand the unfamiliar. Kale saw in Elias a strength that was not just physical, but mental, a sharpness, a capacity for strategy, and a courage that the Valari themselves respected. By the time the first sun of the Valari world dipped below the horizon, Elias realized something unexpected. This was not just a political arrangement. This was a chance to bridge two worlds, to prove humanity's worth, and perhaps to find an ally who could understand him, as he could understand Kale. As he lay in the chamber that night staring at the alien sky beyond the window, Elias thought about the future. Battles awaited them, yes. Challenges would come. The galaxy was not a forgiving place. But perhaps, just perhaps, this union, strange, unexpected, and daunting, could change the course of history. He closed his eyes, and for the first time in days allowed himself a small, cautious hope. In the distance, Kale watched the stars, and somewhere deep inside he felt the same. The war had not yet begun. The battles that would define humanity and Valari alike lay ahead. But one thing was certain. The captain and the prince, strangers bound by duty, had taken their first step together, and neither of them would forget it. The Valari palace was quieter at night, though not completely silent. The echoes of ceremonial drums and chants had faded, leaving only the soft hum of the city beyond and the faint wind whistling across the terraces. Captain Elias Ward stood at the edge of the balcony, his hands gripping the railing as he tried to steady his thoughts. The day had been overwhelming. Endless formalities, respectful bows, the ceremony itself, and countless introductions. Every moment reminded him of the stakes at hand. This marriage was more than a personal union. It was a bridge between two worlds, fragile yet vital. Still thinking, human. A voice cut through the quiet. Elias turned to see Kyle standing behind him. His silhouette was strong, his presence commanding yet calm. "I can't help it," Elias admitted, running a hand through his hair. "I've fought in battles across the stars, survived ambushes and firestorms, and yet, this feels harder." Kale stepped closer, his glowing eyes steady on Elias. "War is different from diplomacy, yes, but strength is the same. Courage, patience, and understanding. These will guide you just as it guides me." Elias nodded slowly, realizing that Kale did not speak as a prince to a subordinate, but as an equal trying to connect. It was the first moment in the day when Elias felt something unfamiliar: trust. The prince motioned toward the room prepared for them. "We should speak, human. There is much to understand about each other, and little time to waste." Inside, the room was decorated with both Valari elegance and practical simplicity. Soft lighting highlighted clean lines, while the large window offered a breathtaking view of the Valari capital, its towers glittering under the light of 3 suns. Elias noticed a small table with 2 cups of steaming liquid, something like tea. Kyle gestured for Elias to sit. "We will speak not as prince and soldier, but as 2 beings who must live together in trust." Elias took a seat, trying to match the calm demeanor Kale projected. "I don't even know where to start," he admitted. "Start with truth," Kale said simply. "The Valari Council has made this arrangement for politics. For them, we are tools, but for us it can be more. We must decide that, human, together." Elias was taken aback. He had expected Kale to be cold, distant, a figure molded entirely by duty. Instead, the prince spoke honestly, acknowledging the political weight of their union yet inviting Elias into a genuine connection. They spent the evening talking, not in small talk or superficial greetings, but in conversation that revealed truths about themselves. Elias spoke of humanity's resilience, the countless wars they had endured, and the ingenuity that allowed them to survive against species far stronger and faster. He explained how humans relied not just on brute force but on intelligence, adaptability, and cooperation. Kyle listened intently, asking questions, not to challenge, but to understand. He spoke of Valari tradition, of the honor in combat, the discipline instilled from birth, and the heavy expectations of leadership. He shared moments of doubt and uncertainty, something few Valari ever admitted even to themselves. Elias found himself surprised by the warmth in Cale's voice, the curiosity that shone in his glowing eyes. For all the tales of Valari warriors being ruthless and uncompromising, Cale seemed genuinely interested in understanding humanity, and him, as the hours. The sun rose over the Valari capital, bathing the palace spires in golden light. Captain Elias Ward had hardly slept, though he made no mention of it. His mind was alive with thoughts of the previous night, thoughts of Cale, of the bond they had begun to form, and of the challenges that lay ahead. The morning brought its first reminder. Alliances were rarely smooth. A formal meeting with the Valari Council awaited them, a gathering of the kingdom's most powerful and influential figures. They were here to judge the marriage, to weigh its meaning, and, as Elias suspected, to measure him as a human in the eyes of a proud warrior race. As he entered the grand chamber, Elias felt the weight of countless eyes upon him. The council members were tall, imposing, and exuded a confidence that only centuries of tradition could provide. Their faces were sharp, expressions unreadable, but the whispers among them spoke volumes. Some were skeptical, some openly disdainful. "Human," one counselor said, his voice rough like gravel. "You are to be joined with a prince of the Valari. Do you understand the responsibilities this entails?" Elias straightened. "Yes, I understand that I am here not just for myself, but for my people and yours. I intend to honor that responsibility." A murmur ran through the chamber. Another counselor leaned forward. "The humans are fragile. They fight with technology, not strength. Can one of your kind truly survive the trials of our world, let alone the responsibilities of a Valari marriage?" Cale's expression hardened. "Captain Ward has fought in battles no Valari soldier would shy from. Strength is measured not only in muscle, but in courage, intelligence, and resolve. Elias Ward embodies all three." The council fell silent, some hiding disapproval, others studying Cale's words. Elias realized that Cale's support was more than political. It was personal. The prince was staking his reputation on Elias's worth, and that fact earned Elias a deep respect. After the meeting, the council members dispersed, leaving Kyle and Elias alone in a quiet hall. "Do not expect them to accept you easily," Kyle said, his voice low. "Many of them will test you in every way. But that is not their concern. Our concern is survival, together." Elias nodded. "I expected resistance, but I didn't expect the contempt. I didn't realize humans were seen so fragile." Cale's gaze softened. "Fragile they may seem, but humans endure. They adapt, survive, and overcome. I have read of your history. I have watched your fleets in simulations. You are not fragile, you are clever, resilient, unyielding." Elias felt a small spark of pride. "Thank you, that means more than you may know." But the quiet of the palace was shattered the next day. During a formal feast celebrating the union, a sudden alarm rang out. Guards rushed forward as chaos erupted at the palace gates. A small group of masked attackers had breached the perimeter, armed with weapons designed to disable both Valari and human technology. Elias acted instantly, instinct guiding him. He drew his sidearm and moved toward the threat, only to be blocked by Cale. "Stay here," Cale commanded, stepping forward with the grace and confidence of a warrior born to command. "This is my fight," but Elias could not obey. He had trained for war all his life, survived countless battles, and now, in the midst of danger, he refused to be idle. He advanced alongside Cale, coordinating with Valari guards, using his knowledge of tactics to outmaneuver the attackers. Cale fought with precision, deflecting blows and taking down enemies with strength and skill that left Elias awed. And yet it was Elias's quick thinking, using human ingenuity and improvisation, that saved lives and helped drive the attackers back. When the dust settled, Elias found himself standing beside Kyle, both of them breathing heavily but victorious. The attackers had been repelled, but the message was clear. Not everyone supported this union, and the threats facing them were real. Cale's gaze met Elias's. "You could have stayed back," he said quietly. "I couldn't," Elias replied. "Not when you—" He stopped, realizing that words could not fully express the respect and trust he felt. Kyle nodded, understanding without further explanation. Word of the attack spread quickly. Among the Valari nobility, opinions divided further. Some grudgingly admitted Elias's capability, while others whispered that humans were unpredictable and dangerous. On Earth, news reached the political leaders as well, sparking debates over whether Elias had been sent into danger recklessly. Despite the tension, Elias found that he had begun to win small victories, not through force alone but through respect earned. Soldiers who had doubted his strength now looked at him with admiration. Kale, too, began to rely on his judgment, often asking for Elias's opinion on strategic matters and listening intently to his advice. One evening, after another long day of council discussions and diplomatic obligations, Kale invited Elias to walk with him through the palace gardens. The twin suns were setting, casting a soft orange glow across the alien flora. Strange, towering trees with luminous leaves lined the pathways, and the air was rich with scents Elias could not name. "Do you ever wonder," Elias asked, breaking the silence, "why you accepted this marriage? I know the council demanded it, but you could have refused in a way humans cannot." Kyle's eyes followed the horizon. "I did not accept lightly, but I saw something in you, Elias. Something more than a soldier. You are clever, brave, and adaptable. Traits I have rarely seen in a Valari, let alone a human. That is why I accepted." Elias felt a warmth in his chest he had not expected. "And you trust me, even though we've only just met?" Kale's gaze met his. "Trust is earned in action, not time. You have already shown me much. That is why I trust you." They walked in silence for a while, each lost in thought. Elias considered how strange life had become. Just days ago, he had been a captain among humans, facing enemies in war. Now he was a husband, married not for love but for alliance, and yet beginning to feel a genuine connection. Kyle, for his part, had shown him that even the most disciplined warriors could appreciate courage, loyalty, and intellect beyond the battlefield. But not all challenges were visible. Whispers continued in the halls. Valari nobles who opposed the union plotted quietly, seeking ways to undermine Elias and Kale. Their distrust was a shadow over every meal, every meeting, every encounter. Elias realized that surviving attacks and gaining respect in combat was only part of the struggle. Winning hearts and minds, bridging two species, and navigating political intrigue would be far more difficult. Kyle sensed this as well. "The council may doubt you," he said later that night. "But remember, Elias, we fight not only for ourselves but for our people. Do not let doubt shake you. You are stronger than you know." Elias nodded, understanding the weight of those words. Strength, courage, and adaptability were what had brought him this far. Now he would need all three to survive not just the battles of war, but the battles of diplomacy and trust. As the twin suns set completely, leaving the city in the soft glow of the Valari moons, Elias and Kale stood together, not as human and alien, not as soldier and prince, but as partners facing the uncertainty of the future. The bond they had begun to forge was fragile, yet strong enough to withstand skepticism, opposition, and even danger. And as night fully settled over the palace, Elias knew one thing: the real challenge had only just begun. The galaxy was vast, alliances were fragile, and enemies waited in the shadows. But with Kale by his side, Elias felt ready to face whatever came next. For the first time, he realized that this marriage, once a duty, could become something greater. Trust, respect, and courage could turn two strangers into allies and perhaps in time, into legends. The morning air over the Valari capital was sharp and cool, a rare moment of calm before the storm. Captain Elias Ward had barely slept, his mind restless with thoughts of the alliance and the fragile bond he was building with Prince Kale. Despite the growing respect and understanding between them, Elias knew the galaxy offered no guarantees. Peace was a fragile illusion, easily shattered by the next threat. That threat arrived faster than anyone expected. Sensors on the palace towers began flashing alarms, a harsh red that cut through the serenity of the morning. Kale and Elias were already at the command center when the reports came in. "Warborn ships," Kale said, his voice steady but low, carrying a weight that made every Valari officer in the room tense. "They have breached the outer sectors. Their fleets move faster than our scouts expected. This is no routine skirmish. They intend to take our colonies." Elias leaned over the console, scanning the incoming data. The Warborn were a hybrid species, part machine, part organic, ruthless in their tactics and adaptive in battle. They had no diplomacy, no code of honor, only destruction. Humanity had fought them before in scattered conflicts, and surviving encounters had required ingenuity and raw courage. Now, Elias realized, the real test of the alliance had begun. Kale's eyes met Elias's. We must lead the defense. Together. If the Warborn succeed, neither our worlds nor your people will survive. Are you ready? Elias's hands clenched instinctively. I've fought worse. Let's show them what humans can do. Within hours, the palace erupted into controlled chaos. Valari warships launched from orbit, joined by human fighters brought to the front lines for the first time in the history of the Alliance. Commanders shouted orders, officers ran across the deck, and Elias felt the familiar adrenaline of battle coursing through his veins. Yet this was different. The victory against the Warborn brought relief, but it was only the beginning. Captain Elias Ward awoke to another day of endless duties, briefings, inspections, and the ever-watchful eyes of Valari nobles who still whispered doubts about the human who had married their prince. Despite his achievements on the battlefield, Elias realized that winning hearts was as important as winning wars. Some council members still regarded him as a foreign pawn, a human playing at power in a world that had no place for him. Kyle, however, remained steadfast. You cannot let them undermine you, human, Kyle said as they walked through the palace corridors. Your actions speak louder than their doubts, but they will try to sow fear anyway. Elias sighed. I thought surviving battles would be enough. I didn't realize diplomacy could be harder than war. Kale's eyes glimmered with understanding. It is, but remember, humans endure. You have already proven your worth in combat. Now you must prove it in leadership and wisdom. Their first test came unexpectedly. The Warborn were not defeated. They had retreated to regroup. Scouts reported that a Warborn strike force was moving toward a remote joint colony, one housing both Valari and human civilians. The council debated endlessly over the response, some insisting on restraint, others demanding immediate action. Elias leaned forward over the tactical table. Delay will cost lives. We strike now, or the colony is lost. I've seen Warborn tactics before, they adapt quickly. Hesitation will give them the advantage. A murmur ran through the room. Several council members looked skeptical. Kale placed a firm hand on Elias's shoulder. I trust him, Kale said simply. We act now. The fleet mobilized, Valari and human ships moving together for the first time in a coordinated strike. Elias and Kyle were side by side on the bridge of the flagship, eyes scanning the holographic battlefield. This is it, Elias said quietly. Show them what we're capable of. Kyle nodded. Together, human. We fight together. The Warborn fleet appeared like a dark storm on the horizon, their spiky ships bristling with weapons. The attack began with precision and violence. Elias issued orders, blending human tactical flexibility with Kale's Valari discipline. Human ships executed flanking maneuvers that surprised the Warborn, while Valari cruisers struck with devastating force. Elias realized that the key to success was synergy. Humans thought differently. Valari acted with unmatched skill. When combined, their strengths created something neither side could achieve alone. A Warborn cruiser broke through the outer defenses and targeted a civilian habitat. Kyle, that ship is headed for the colony, Elias shouted. Kale's eyes narrowed. We intercept now. They led a daring mission together. Elias piloted a strike craft through the Warborn's defenses, using his knowledge of human ingenuity and improvisation to disable the cruiser's weapons. Kale commanded Valari fighters to create openings in shields, a dance of precision and coordination that few outside their fleet could have understood. When the cruiser finally fell, the colony remained intact. Human and Valari civilians cheered from the planet below, witnessing leaders who risked everything to protect life, not just their own interests. In the aftermath, Elias found himself surrounded by Valari soldiers. They looked at him not as a human outsider, but as a leader, a warrior, a hero. You fought with honor, one officer said. We are proud to stand beside you. Elias felt a warmth he had never experienced in battle. Recognition, respect, and trust, these were as powerful as any weapon. And yet he knew the struggle was not over. Politics remained, and the council's doubts still lingered in shadowed halls. Later, in a quiet room overlooking the capital city, Kale and Elias spoke alone. Today you proved not only humanity's strength but your own, Kale said softly. You are no longer just my husband by decree. You are my partner in every sense." Elias shook his head, smiling faintly. "I only did what I had to. I couldn't let people die because of hesitation or pride." Cale reached out, resting a hand on Elias's shoulder. "And that is why you earned respect. You are more than a soldier, you are a symbol. Humanity has been underestimated for too long. Today that changes." Their bond, tested by battle and challenge, grew stronger. Trust was no longer fragile. It was tempered like steel in the fires of adversity. They spoke quietly of strategy, of defense, of the steps needed to protect both human and Valari colonies. Every decision, every maneuver, strengthened their partnership and deepened the mutual respect that had begun on their wedding night. Yet even in moments of calm, whispers of doubt and jealousy lingered. Some council members plotted quietly, suggesting that a human should not hold such influence over a Valari prince. Elias ignored them outwardly, but he knew that perception could be as dangerous as any enemy. To counter this, he worked tirelessly, attending council meetings, learning Valari traditions, and offering insights that were practical, honest, and fair. Slowly, the council began to acknowledge his intelligence and courage. Not all were convinced, but the seeds of respect were planted. In the evenings, he continued his conversations with Cale. They discussed history, tactics, and even small moments of humor, things humans and Valari alike could enjoy. These quiet moments reinforced their partnership, a bond that extended beyond duty into genuine understanding. One night, as they walked along the palace terrace, Elias looked up at the alien stars. "I never imagined I'd find myself here, facing aliens, leading fleets, fighting side by side with a prince." Kyle smiled faintly. "And yet here you are, human. Your courage, your adaptability, your spirit. These are qualities the galaxy cannot ignore. That is why we are strong together." Elias nodded. "I've learned something important too. Strength isn't just about weapons or ships. It's about people, trust, respect, and the willingness to act when it matters most." Kyle's eyes glimmered with approval. "Then we have learned well from each other. This alliance is no longer just political. It is personal, and that makes it unbreakable." The next day, word of their success reached the wider galaxy. Humans were no longer seen as weak or expendable. Valari soldiers shared tales of Elias's ingenuity and courage. Even some skeptical council members were forced to acknowledge the human captain's worth. Elias realized that the true victory was not just surviving the warborn attack, but earning recognition for himself, for humanity, and for the bond he had forged with Cale. The galaxy was beginning to see what he had always known. Humans were resilient, clever, and capable of extraordinary courage when tested. And in the quiet moments between battles and council meetings, Elias understood something even more important. His partnership with Cale had grown into a true alliance of minds, hearts, and values. Together they were stronger, wiser, and capable of achieving what neither could alone. The sun set over the Valari capital, painting the towers in gold and silver. Elias stood beside Cale once more, watching the city below. The battles had tested them, politics had challenged them, and yet they had endured. The path ahead was uncertain, filled with threats both known and hidden. But for the first time, Elias felt certain of one thing. Humanity had a place among the stars, and with courage, intelligence, and trust, they could rise to meet any challenge. The galaxy had begun to recognize it, and Elias and Cale, once strangers bound by duty, now stood as symbols of what two civilizations could achieve when united by respect, bravery, and shared purpose. The aftermath of the warborn attacks left the galaxy in a tense calm. Fleets were repaired, colonies rebuilt, and soldiers honored for their courage. Yet even in peace, Captain Elias Ward knew that the true work was only beginning. The alliance between humans and Valari was fragile, and the galaxy remained filled with uncertainty. Elias walked the corridors of the palace alongside Prince Cale, their steps echoing against the polished floors. The prince had summoned him for a private discussion, and Elias felt the weight of anticipation in the quiet hum of the building. "The council has called for a ceremony," Kyle began, his voice steady, "to formally recognize your role in the defense and honor you as a warborn slayer. This is not just for the people of Valari, but for the galaxy to see. Humans are not weak. They are strong, resilient, and capable." Elias nodded, feeling a mixture of pride and humility. "I never thought recognition would come so far from home. But I see now that actions speak louder than words, no matter where you are. Kale smiled faintly. Indeed. Today, your courage and intelligence are not just acknowledged, they are celebrated. You have earned respect that will echo across the stars. The ceremony was unlike anything Elias had ever experienced. Valari leaders, soldiers, and civilians gathered, and the halls were alive with energy. Speeches praised the human captain for his bravery, strategic brilliance, and unwavering determination during the war-born attacks. Soldiers who had doubted him before now stood proudly beside him, offering cheers and applause. Elias felt a surge of emotion, not just for himself but for humanity. Centuries of underestimation, of being seen as weak or expendable, were being overturned in a single undeniable moment. Humanity had proven its worth. Kyle approached him at the center of the hall, placing a ceremonial hand on Elias's shoulder. This recognition is more than a title, Kale said softly. It is a symbol of what can happen when courage meets opportunity, when intelligence meets bravery. Humanity is now an equal among the stars. Elias nodded, humble,